In 2019, we began to embrace a vision that if we want to see a movement in our community of disciples who make disciples, it has to be personal. We follow a Savior who knows our name and who leaves the 99 to go after the one who is lost. And it's Jesus' example that's led so many of us to have a one in our lives that we can name. A person in our community who isn't walking with Jesus, but who we are sharing life with and helping to discover Jesus. We also committed 4 years ago to make more room in our building for our ones, and your generosity blew us away. Through your sacrificial giving, we were able to construct a brand new worship center, and since then our church has grown by 35%. In the last year, we've celebrated 20 baptisms. Almost 100 people have attended a Next Steps class, and we had over 200 kids at VBS this past summer. Most importantly, so many of you are sharing life with your ones and helping them discover Jesus.
My name is Vince. I moved here Waterloo in 2001. I'm currently a plumber, married with 2 kids. I was raised by my mom, my grandma, and one of my aunts. Grandma, mom, big churchgoers. When I was young, it was kind of just routine. When I turned 18, I just kind of had a lot of questions that I didn't have answers for, and it wasn't really my thing, and just walked away from it all.
I'm Rob Shirk. I've lived in the Cedar Valley just about my entire life. And when I was a junior in high school, we were introduced to the Free Methodist Church. That's where I recall have my first recollections of people talking about Jesus. One of the things that drew me and my entire family to Trinity was my brother-in-law. He told us for 20 years that we needed to go investigate Trinity because it was a unique place. And once we got here, I understood what he was talking about.
Me and my wife kind of started talking about going back to church. We weren't anti-religion. We were just like, if it makes you happy, cool, but it's not our thing. How I met Rob Shirk, he was actually a customer for work.
We had a plumbing issue in our house. Vince came to address that issue.
Told him that me and my wife had talked about possibly trying to find a church and start going to church.
My wife and I kind of shared a little bit of our faith story, and we invited Vince to Trinity.
Me and the wife came for first time, and we really enjoyed the service.
Anytime I would see Vince at church, I would greet him and we would chat and things.
4 or 5 weeks of coming here, we just decided that we liked it here, we liked the environment, and decided to stay. I love the environment at Trinity. You got different age groups, and there doesn't seem to be a sense of, I gotta hold a certain demeanor, or, it's very relaxed.
Pastor Peter approached me and he said, Vince is interested in a Bible study. He said, would you be interested in leading him in that study? Vince is a very enthusiastic investigator. Sometimes Vince asks some challenging questions which forces me deeper and deeper into the Word. As the deeper I go into the Word, the more Christ draws me to Him.
I appreciate everything he does. I'm super thankful that I went on that service call, or I got put on that service call for work and met him, and I couldn't ask for a better mentor.
It's my prayer for Vince that he will have an experience very similar to what I did, that as he spends more time with the people of the church, that he will be drawn in, that he will see the love of God through those people, and that he will give his heart to the Lord.
I paint buildings and things like that. I don't have much of an artistic flair, but I started coming to Trinity. It's been a good 5, 6, maybe more years. It was just a good way for me to spend time with Mom and make sure she's getting around safely. I felt so welcomed the first time I was here. My mom, she was very religious when we were younger, and my dad did believe in God, and he did respect her, but we did not attend church. We didn't do things like that. When I did go to church, we would go different times, and of course you went on Easter and Christmas and all that kind of, the major holidays and check the box kind of thing. I was young, and like I said, I was from the river, and I got to be inside and I have to wear pants, and it just didn't really go well for me at church as a young man. But as I grew, some of the things I didn't like hearing at church when I was young started to make sense. Kind of made me start to think I need to maybe apply some of these things I'm learning in my life. And as I did that, my life changed. My relationship with Jesus is awesome. We're very close. I communicate with him almost nonstop. It's all in here. And just releasing that up to God. So I pray a lot. I was here when Peter first started preaching here. I could really identify with him. He was a really down-to-earth kind of guy. He's from a small town. I'd say the people I've met at Trinity, the staff and the congregation, I mean, everybody's been welcoming and having a lot of pleasant conversation and chats in the hallways, and met a few guys for coffee at different times. And I need a lot of that because, like I said, I'm a river rat, and a lot of not much of that lifestyle is attending church. I've got a lot of friends that are non-believers, and I feel like if they came to Trinity, and I've asked them, I've invited them multiple times, I feel like they would have the exact same, like they would come in, they'd be welcome, they wouldn't be pressured, they wouldn't be smothered. It's just a real nice, neutral, comfortable environment to be in, and I think they would notice that right off. Another thing that Trinity has provided for me is to not be ashamed and to stand tall and not be afraid. I feel like some of the people at the Sandbar need to see me, because I might be the only representation of the Bible they'll ever actually see. And if they can see somebody like me that's made the mistakes that I've made, then maybe they would say, hey, look, man, if that guy can do it, like, we can too. I decided to get baptized at Trinity because I was ready to be baptized. As soon as I got baptized, that was part of what we were learning in small group. And I'd never gave any of that two thoughts, you know. In the moment, I thought I fully understood what baptism is, and I didn't. But the upside is I went ahead and I got baptized, and as I'm growing, I feel I have a better understanding of how the Holy Spirit works in my life.
I grew up in church. I was at church all the time with my dad. Grew up with a really strong faith family, I guess. It was kind of like a second home to me. My dad had worked with Trinity in the past for just a bunch of tech stuff. Both my parents really liked the service. I did not want to come at first. I did not want to go to this church. I was very cynical about coming here. And then my friend Mary invited me to come to the youth group for the summer. We do a thing called Mosaic Fires. That first Mosaic that I went to, it changed a lot of things for me. It showed me a different type of church and a different type of worship and a different type of relationship, and it immediately felt like home. I was born with a disability called spinal muscular atrophy. It's left me without the strength to walk, to do just a lot of stuff. It's my whole body, it's not just my legs. My muscles just basically don't grow the way that they should. This disability it gets worse with time. Basically, when I was born, my parents were told that I would most likely die in my 20s. I wouldn't graduate high school. I wouldn't go to college. A lot of devastating news for parents, especially because I was their first kid. This was not how they saw their lives going. So as I got older and started understanding the concept of life more, my faith also became a little bit more rocky. I still always struggled with, why would God put me in a wheelchair? Like, why would he do that? I've always wrestled with that question of why. I was scared to ask these questions because I thought that it would mean that I was a lesser Christian, I guess. So I just shied away from them. I pushed them down. I didn't let myself find out. And then the summer that we started going here, I started working out at the Cedar Falls Bible Conference with my dad. That week, to say it was transformative would be an understatement. But it ended up being the thing that brought me back to God. The thing I struggled with the most was the fact that coming back to God didn't fix my depression, didn't fix my anxiety, was having suicidal thoughts, and I was still self-harming, and I still just didn't want to be here at all. And it hurt even more knowing that there was a God out there and that he loves me and that I was still feeling like this, even though He's out there. My youth group holds a lock-in once a year during the winter. It's like right before winter break happens. It's so fun. We stay up all night. We play games. There's a worship set. It's a night with my friends and a night with God. And I looked forward to it, but I was still stuck in my hurt. I was numb to the world and numb to everything. Everything changed after that night. And I don't know what God did, but God did something. God's perfect joy and God's perfect peace. Something in my brain finally clicked. And then since then, I've just had this fire for God, this fire to be around him and learn more. Like it's like a hunger to go read my Bible. I've never seen God's presence like I have here. It's less the place and more the people here and the way that they love you. No one's afraid to build relationships here. The whole like making disciples who make disciples thing here, they take that seriously. They see you not as a statistic, but as an actual person.
These stories represent many more stories that we are celebrating of God working in our midst. However, this growth has practical realities. For example, on a lot of Sundays at 9 a.m., our parking lot is overflowing. And as our church grows, our need for ministries to serve people and to disciple people also increases. With all that God's doing, we're now prompted to take another bold step to spur on what was started 4 years ago. We're launching a 2-year campaign called Everyone, Every Day. When I look at the example of the early church movement in the New Testament, it wasn't dependent on a pastor preaching 1 day a week. It was everyone living out the mission in their everyday lives. We want to be a movement of everyone every day, just like the early disciples. And in this season, we have a goal of equipping everyone in our church to be an everyday, ordinary fisher of men who relentlessly reaches the ones that they love, that they're sharing life with. The Everyone Every Day campaign is also a continuation of our recent building project. Now, our members have approved a Phase 2 project to first solve our parking problems and later to finish areas of our building that we didn't address last time. At the same time, even though we've been blessed to pay off 2/3 of our previous building project, we want to pay the final $1.4 million remaining on our mortgage. Elimination of our debt will immediately free up significant resources that we can put back into the ministry work of our church. Altogether, we're trusting God for $2.1 million to fund these campaign initiatives. If we can raise these funds and pay off our loan right now, instead of slowly paying it off over the next 15 years, we can literally save $1 million in interest. Imagine the potential ministry impact we can have with those extra funds. This will give us so much freedom to be unhindered as a movement in the years to come. Movements need to be able to move and to be able to invest wherever the Lord directs, whether that's having the resources to train young ministers, plant churches, or do something that God hasn't even shown us yet. This campaign is not just about our church. In fact, as part of the Everyone Every Day campaign, we'll be giving a portion of the funds we raise to bless our friends at Bendembu Bible College in Sierra Leone and to help support a Wesleyan church plant right here in Iowa. These Beyond Our Walls projects provide an example of the significant opportunities we will have to bless others when we're unhindered by debt. There's incredible potential for us to multiply as a movement of disciples who make disciples. But it starts with every one of us making everyday sacrifices. So here's what we ask of you. First, make a relational commitment to have a one that you're sharing life with and helping to discover Jesus. For those who already have a one, keep going. Keep in that daily relationship, representing Jesus' love through your love of that person. For those still praying about who your one might be, take a bold step of faith. Intentionally engage with non-believers in your life. Get to know someone better. Begin investing in a friendship and praying for them. I can't wait to see what happens when everyone in our church is equipped as an everyday fisher of men. Second, our leadership is asking you to prayerfully consider a financial commitment to this campaign. We aren't asking for everyone to give equally, but we are asking for everyone to sacrifice equally towards this need. So engage with God in prayer about what He might ask you to pledge over the next 2 years so that we can be unhindered as a movement. Unhindered in our facilities and parking, and unhindered by debt so that we can be free to follow wherever God leads in the future. Whether you've been with us for 4 months or 40 years, we're asking that everyone who calls Trinity home would join in these 2 commitments. I love being part of this with you. I love seeing God work in the lives of my ones, and I love when you introduce me to your ones here on Sunday morning or in a coffee shop. Best of all is celebrating with those whose ones have trusted in Jesus and have been baptized. But I believe we're just getting started. We can gain momentum in this season as all of us, together, become a movement of everyone, every day.